G'day everyone and welcome to an Oz Cyclone Chasers Cyclone video update today, the 18th of March 2015. My name's Chris Nitzo. This update is sponsored by our major sponsor, Campbell Scientific Australia, when measurements matter. Big news tonight is Tropical Cyclone Nathan has been upgraded to a Category 3 system. It is expected to track in a westerly direction, expected to make landfall probably at this stage in the vicinity of Cooktown, but it could be a little bit further to the north of that, depending on the exact track of the system, particularly over the next 12 hours or so. As we've been mentioning for the past few updates, the Bureau are now expecting this system to become a Category 4 before impact. Fairly similar track forecast here from the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre, with a track just to the north of Cooktown and a fairly solid Category 3, high-end Category 3 cyclone. If we then track the system further to the west after it makes landfall, it goes across the peninsula and then reforms in the Gulf of Carpentaria and likely ends up hitting either the Gove Peninsula or around Groot Island as a Category 2 tropical cyclone, an intensifying one, but still a Category 2 cyclone. Following on from that, the longer term projection of it could see it back out here over the Timor Sea for a third rise from the dead. Alright, because we're on the road, this update will be a lot briefer than our normal updates, but you can start to see here beautiful lie developing on Tropical Cyclone Nathan, and you can see it here just to the north of the 15-degree south line and tracking slowly to the west-northwest or northwest in the last few hours. On the enhanced infrared, we can see that system once again, that eye really developing now, nice little pinhole eye. The northwestern eye wall seems to be the most intense eye wall, the most intense part of the eye wall at the moment. On Funk Top, we can see that the heaviest rainfall similarly is located not only just in the northwestern eye wall, but it's actually located in the convective banding to the northwest in particular. Just prior to those last few images though, when we looked at this through microwave imagery, we can see that it's a pretty messy looking eye a few hours ago. So just in the last couple of hours, it's really defined its eye much better. The system lies in extremely weak vertical wind shear. Alright, where's it moving? Well, very, very obvious track and direction here. There is no way, shape or form that this thing is coming anywhere near Cairns or Townsville. You can see here, this is a mid-level ridge, or mid-level high, right over the top of Western Queensland, and it's exerting a very strong influence here on the system, and its initial throws will be out here to the northwest, and eventually the system will come under a more westerly influence as it tracks on the northern side of that ridge. At the moment it's on the northeastern side of that ridge, so that ridge is exerting a northwesterly track. When it gets on the northern side, it'll be a more westerly track. You can see the GFS forecast model here is expecting a track pretty well due west-northwest from where it's located now, and is missing or just hitting Cape Melville, and it looks like a direct impact there on Cohen at some stage as well, so that could be something to look out for that region. Very similar track from the CMC forecast model, where most of the computer model forecasts are suggesting a track right over the top of Cohen, just maybe grazing Cape Melville on the way through. Now we do have some southern outliers here that push the system as far south as Cooktown, and we also have some northern outliers which push the system as far north as Lockhart River. On the European forecast ensemble, we can see that the system, rather than a westerly track, adopts more of a west-northwesterly track, adopts more of a westerly track, and that puts it fairly close to Cooktown, or just to the north here of Cooktown. And so Cooktown's well and truly still in the firing line there on that particular forecast model. If we continue to track the system further, then we see it exiting the western peninsula and then moving on to make a landfall very, very close to Gove itself. Interestingly, in the longer term, the average ensemble from the European, the average ensemble member, has the system tracking out here in the Timor Sea off the coast of Darwin, and eventually possibly becoming another tropical cyclone, or another version of itself as a tropical cyclone out here in the Timor Sea or Southeast Indian Ocean. And in the longer term, the forecast modelling here doesn't show that, but in the longer term, that will eventually make landfall in the Pilbara or Gascoyne coastline. Okay, looking at the latest European forecast model, and if we just move into the region here and just find where Cooktown is in relation to all this stuff, you can see there's Cooktown on your map, and we're just going to move a little bit further to the north so we get the actual cyclone itself on there. We're now looking at Thursday evening, and we are seeing the cyclone located just on the edge of your screen there. As we go to Thursday night, we can see the cyclone now coming into view here, right or near Cooktown itself, or just to the north of Cooktown here. So the distance between the cyclone centre and Cooktown, approximately 60 to 80 kilometres away. So that means that Cooktown would certainly be spared the very destructive core. This system is going to be fairly small in size, so the very destructive core is only going to be around about 20 to 30 kilometres away from the eye. If we look here if we take a zoomed out approach at the area, we can see that the system is a fair way to the north here of Cooktown at this point in time on the computer model guidance. But we are seeing some fairly heavy rainfalls associated with it developing on the coast on Thursday night and into Friday morning, and that heavy rainfall actually extends a fair way down, almost as far south as Cairns, with lighter falls further to the south. If we just take a look at the sort of winds that could be experienced with this system in those various areas, we can see that Cooktown itself, even though it might be lying a fair way south of the centre of circulation, still expected to see 40 to 50 knot winds at a sustained level, with gusts up to probably 120 or 130 kilometres an hour, even though it's going to miss the very destructive core to the south. Now, obviously, computer modelling there can change, but that's what we're looking at the moment. And especially given the fact that we're seeing on radar the system tracking away to the northwest right now, it makes it even less likely that Cooktown will see the direct impact of the eye of this system. But the computer models do chop and change a little bit between their solutions, and you can see here on the GFS forecast model from earlier this morning, we had the system making landfall right over the top of Cooktown on Friday morning. So it's going to be touch and go, but at this stage the models are trending further to the north, which means that Cooktown will likely miss the worst of this system if that trend continues. Now, if that trend stops, well, then we're back in business. It does look pretty sweet on radar imagery, doesn't it? It's certainly getting its circulation going, and as I said, it's still very touch and go. If it does track west-southwest from there, Cooktown's right in the firing line of that eye, but at this stage the computer models are predicting it to be just south of the eye and the very destructive core. And once again, in the latest radar imagery, when we zoom into Willis Island, thanks to Weather Zone, we can see that the system has been tracking in that northwesterly direction the last couple of hours. It seems to, in the last half an hour or so, begin tracking back towards the west rather than the west-northwest. So it is going to be touch and go, folks, but at this point in time, it looks like the system might move just to the north of Cooktown, in which case it would put Cooktown outside the eye, but still in the area of damaging and possibly destructive winds. Now, this will obviously update, and because we'll be chasing, we'll let you know exactly what's going on in relation to this system and Cooktown. Obviously, if by tomorrow mid-morning it looks like it's not going to go anywhere near Cooktown, we'll abort the chase before we get too far into it. So I guess for now, folks, it's wait and see, and we'll be watching the radar and satellite like a hawk overnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning. As I say, if the system doesn't start pushing west shortly and continues to push west-northwest, we will abort the chase early tomorrow morning before we get too far into it. Thanks for watching this update, folks. We'll have another brief update for subscribers in the morning, and for the general public, we'll have another brief update tomorrow night as to the progress of this. Keep an eye on our Facebook page for more frequent text updates as they come to hand.